we did receive a text from Candy and Ryan that that their children are ill today, so they won't be here. So what do we want to talk about? I wasn't, pardon me?
The Burger King Whopper song.
Well, I don't think that's appropriate to talk about here. If I knew what you were talking about, maybe I could make it into something. What's the Whopper song?
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper.
Okay.
Perfect count. It also pops up since it's an ad as well. And also it's on YouTube. You could just look up the Whopper Whopper song. There's a full song, and on the ads, it's like shorter versions.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know that about Burger King, but I do remember the old jingle. Well, you remember what the old jingle for Burger King was? Have it your way. You remember that?
Yeah, that's also.
How did that go?
That's actually on the end of the song.
Okay. Yeah, it's have it your way, right? Mm-hmm. And why does Burger King say that?
And also, it's also have it your way. That's the end of the song. But
why do they say have it your way? Have you ever thought about it?
Because free food.
Well, it used to be that when you went, at least where I grew up and when my wife and I were dating, the restaurants we used to go to, you pretty much couldn't have it your way. If you ordered a cheeseburger, you got whatever came on the cheeseburger, right? Well, Burger King had this novel idea that they were going to let people tell them what they wanted on it. If you wanted your Whopper plain, you could have your Whopper plain. If you only wanted cheese, mayonnaise, and pickle, which is my favorite, on it, that's all you got on it. Yes?
Oh, and also there's also this part of the song that is that the mayo, pickle, ketchup, it's okay if I don't want that.
Okay. Well, yes, and that's what they mean by have it your way. But, while it's good to have it your way with a hamburger, how you want it made, you know what? It's not always good for us to have our way in life, is it?
Right.
Because...
And also I did think about like a TikTok thing that would actually be kind of funny. You know the thing where the combo thing?
Yes.
Ask the person for 1,000 chicken cheese, another one 1,000 burger, cheeseburger.
That would really freak them out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and also, do you know after they finish making it, do you know what I would say?
What?
That it's okay if I don't want that.
Okay.
And they would be.
All right. Well, let's talk about having it your way.
That would actually be like.
Well, let's talk about having it your way. Again, it's okay to have it your way when it comes to a burger. But do your parents set any boundaries for you? Are there some things you're just not allowed to do? Like, are you allowed to drive the car? Why not?
Because you might get in an accident.
You might get in an accident. Yeah, you don't know how to drive a car yet, do you?
I do, probably.
But your parents, you might be close, but you've got a while yet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I figured.
They said
all of the controls.
Instead of parents, instead of allowing us to have everything our way, they know from living life and from wisdom and learning some things that there are some things that are dangerous to do, like driving a car.
Or jumping off of a building.
Or jumping off of a building or a bridge. But God is the same way. Some people think God set rules just to take away all of our fun, but God set rules and boundaries for us in the Bible because God knows that some of those things aren't good for us, right? So when you read something in the Bible that you might think, well, God, that's not fair. I really like to do that. God has a reason for that. And just like we like to have it our own way on a lot of things, sometimes we have to realize that our parents, and especially God, knows a lot more than we do, and He sets rules to protect us. So will you pray with me? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, We thank you that you've set boundaries for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord.
So, Lord, even though we may not understand, we trust that you're doing it for our own good.
We trust that you're doing it for our own good.
Help us to trust in you
Help us to trust in you
and obey you.
and obey you.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Our Bible reading today is taken from Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28, and that's found on the New Testament, page 17. This is the Canaanite woman's faith. Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he didn't answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away. All she does is keep shouting at us." He answered, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wished." And her daughter was healed instantly. This is the word of God for you, God's people. Thanks be to God.
Well, there was a man who was traveling through the countryside, and he came into a small village, and he saw a country store, and he decided he wanted to stop and get some refreshments. And as he entered the door of this small store, there was a big sign that said, "Beware of dog." Inside, as he walked in, the only dog he saw was this harmless-looking old gray dog holding down the floor by the cash register. "Is this the dog I'm supposed to beware of?" he asked the owner. "Yep, that's him," came the reply. The stranger couldn't help but be amused. "Well, that certainly doesn't look like a dangerous dog to me. Why in the world would you post a beware of dog sign?" "Because," the owner explained, "before I posted the sign, people kept tripping over him." You know, I can really relate to that. That sounds like Diane and I's dog. We know today's text, and you'll get the connection here, had a lot of people tripping over this text for years. Tripping over the fact that Jesus called this woman and her people dogs. And you might wonder, why would Jesus speak so apparently harshly to this woman? I mean, doesn't it seem contrary to Jesus' nature, how he accepts and loves people? And, you know, is it really fair of Jesus to call her a dog? Well, I want to give you a few pieces to help paint the picture of this story, and then we'll put them together. Now, as you might be aware, calling someone a dog in Jesus' time was very much an insult. Actually, to call someone a dog today would likely be received in an insulting way. But to the Jews, dogs were unclean animals. Therefore, Jews did not keep dogs as pets. Second, most dogs that are referred to in the scriptures in Jesus' time were wild, vicious scavengers that lived in the streets and that people were frankly afraid of, and they despised them. Another reason Jesus may have called her a dog is the fact that she was a Canaanite woman. She was a Gentile, and she was not following the cultural norms of the time. As you're probably well aware of, it was highly inappropriate for a woman to approach a man, especially a Jew in this times. In other words, she was acting like a wild, undomesticated dog, if you will, for not following the cultural rules. But things in this text are not quite as they seem. Again, our modern Bible translators have, in my opinion, failed us. You see, the Greek word Jesus called this woman was not the vicious street dog name. It was actually a Greek word that referred to a more specific kind of dog, and the word he used means little dog. Now, some people have interpreted that as puppies. I don't know that I would go that far. It literally means little dog. But it makes sense in the context of this that he would call her a little dog, because even the little dogs that they kept as lap dogs, the Gentiles kept as lap dogs, could eat the crumbs from their master's table. This is the context in which Jesus is setting this. Little lap dogs could eat the crumbs that fell from their master's table. Now, this may not seem like much of a difference, but hold on. As we go on and get the whole picture, I think you'll see why this makes a huge difference. Yet there is a few more things we need to know to get the entire picture of what's going on here. You heard the text read. Who did Jesus say he was sent to save? The lost sheep of Israel. Now, that's obviously the Jews. And I think he could have been more specifically speaking of the scribes, the Pharisees, and the teachers of the law, especially any Jew that rejected him. The very ones who would call this woman a dog, the vicious street type of dog, were the ones that Jesus came to save. Jesus came to the lost sheep of Israel, yet it was his own people, if you will, who rejected him. They did not receive him as the Messiah. They rejected him as a teacher, and they most certainly rejected him as God's anointed one, the Messiah. Yet this Canaanite woman, this Gentile, this dog, at least that's how the Jews saw her, has believed. She has believed in Jesus' ability to heal her daughter or drive the demon out of her daughter. Jesus called this woman a little dog, not to insult her, but to make a point with his disciples and the other Jews around him. The point being that this woman recognized what the Pharisees and the teachers of the law did not recognize. Essentially, Jesus used this foreigner, this Gentile woman, to embarrass the religious leaders. And he used her to teach his disciples a lesson as well. Remember from what you heard in the text, even the disciples didn't want to mess with this woman. They told Jesus to send her away. Yet Jesus used this persistent mother to teach them, all of them, that even the dogs are welcome at the Master's table. And I have to ask, are there people in the world today that some people consider to be dogs? The lowest of the low? Are there people in the world today that we would prefer Jesus would just send away so we don't have to deal with them? There was a Roman Catholic priest who had a large upper middle class parish. And in that parish, the church was heavily involved in the community in taking care of the poor, donating money to help with rent and utilities, donating food so they had food to eat. They operated a free clothing store so people could have clothing. They did a lot to meet the physical needs of the poor in the area. But the priest had a concern. He had a concern that while the parish was good at meeting the physical needs of the people, they were not doing much at all to meet the spiritual needs of the people. So he devised a plan to have one of his church members disguise himself as a dirty, disheveled, scruffy homeless man in tattered clothing. He then had him sit outside the church's main entrance on a cold winter morning. Now, his instructions were to just sit there silently. As people began to come for Mass, they saw this apparently homeless man sitting at the doors of their church. Now, this exercise was repeated for all 3 of the Sunday morning services. And what happened surprised even the priest. Not one person said anything or did anything to attempt to help this man in need. Not one out of about 700 people who attended those 3 services on that Sunday morning. Now, I hope you're not focusing on the fact that this was a Catholic church, because I assure you this could be a church of any denomination. So are there people out there who are treated like the Canaanite woman in today's text? Are there people out there that we would frankly rather not have to deal with? That we would rather have Jesus send away? I want to remind you of something and ask you to remember. You and I, in Jesus' time, what would we have been? Dogs. Now, unless there's 1 or 2 of you out here that have Jewish background and heritage I don't know about, we're all Gentiles. We're the dogs. And aren't we glad? Aren't we thankful that Jesus welcomes even the dogs to his table? It's only through our faith like this Canaanite woman had, that we can come and receive the crumbs from the Master's table. And actually, Jesus gives more than crumbs. Jesus gives us the full banquet. So let's not forget, we too were once dogs, accepted by Jesus. And let us go forth into the world and accept and reach out to those that many would call dogs. May we love and accept them just as Jesus did us. Amen. First of all, I want to say this. We've had people outside the doors of our church before, and I'm happy to say that they were reached out to and cared for. Not by me, not by Bonnie, but by some of you. So thank you for that we are a church that wouldn't let someone sit there and not do anything. But you also know there are a lot of people out there in the world that, and I admit even myself, sometimes there's people that are difficult to deal with. And sometimes it would be easier to say, Jesus, send them away. But that's not what Christ has called us to do, is it? Christ has called us to reach out to those even that the world would call dogs. And you know, this isn't just a matter of theology. On the way into the church this morning, there's a Christian's radio station I listen to on the way on Sunday morning and most of my days driving in. And they shared that the suicide rate in the United States is at the highest level it's ever been. What do you think that is? Could it be that people are depressed because they're considered dogs? You know, the world sets up a standard that no one can meet. Yet people try to live into that, and when they can't do it, they think they failed, they become depressed, and sadly, some take their lives. So it matters. It matters that we go into the world and reach out to all people, especially those the world would call outcasts and even dogs. So I send you forth into the field with that work. Now, I know we're all gifted differently. Some of you can do that quite easily, and some of you it's a little bit harder. Actually, probably a lot harder, right? But that's what Jesus has called us to do, to go and love and accept all as he loves and accepts all. Please be seated, and after the postlude, depart in the peace of Christ.